Are your people working hard but not reaching their full potential? The problem is not effort, it is development. At the Modern Observer Group, we transform workforce development into real performance. Our human-centered achievement programs help your team think better, communicate stronger, and execute at a higher level. That means higher employee engagement, stronger leadership, and measurable results across your organization. If you want a workforce that performs, leads, and delivers, it is time to invest in your people. Visit modernobserver.com and discover how the Modern Observer Group helps you build a workforce that wins.
An F-15E Strike Eagle downed with all crew rescued. The FBI reports a major data breach. The Artemis II to reach the moon today, and more. Welcome to the Raw Naked Truth. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin, and here's the news you need to know. A U.S. F-15E Strike Eagle fighter jet was downed over Iran on Friday, marking the first manned American aircraft known to be lost over enemy territory during Operation Epic Fury. U.S. Special Forces located and rescued the two crew members on Iranian soil. Iranian state television urged civilians to help capture the pilots and offered a bounty for capturing them alive. Israel canceled planned strikes in Iran to avoid interfering with the rescue effort. The CIA ran a deception campaign inside Iran, spreading false reports that the airman had already been found, while intelligence teams pinpointed his actual location. Hundreds of special forces and dozens of aircraft carried out the extraction, striking Iranian forces who were closing in and destroying two transport planes that got stuck before evacuating. The fighter jet downed over Iran would be the fourth F-15E lost in Epic Fury. On March 1st, 3 F-15Es were shot down over Kuwait in an apparent friendly fire incident. All 6 crew members involved in that incident ejected and were safely recovered. President Trump warned Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz by Tuesday or face strikes on power plants and bridges. In a Truth Social post, Trump wrote, "Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day, all wrapped up in one in Iran. There will be nothing like it. Open the effing strait, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell." He followed it up with another message a few hours later that said, "Tuesday, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time." The Associated Press reported that its sources said diplomats from Egypt, Turkey, and Pakistan are working behind the scenes to help the U.S. and Iran find common ground. In the meantime, a spokesperson for Iran's Central Command said in a statement, if attacks on civilian targets are repeated, the next stages of our offensive and retaliatory operations will be much more devastating and widespread. 2 relatives of slain Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps Major General Qasem Soleimani, living in Los Angeles, were taken into custody by federal agents after Secretary of State Marco Rubio revoked their green cards, officials said. Hamida Soleimani Afshar, identified as Soleimani's niece, and her daughter were arrested and are now being held by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, according to an announcement Saturday from the State Department. The Trump administration says Afshar has been a supporter of Iran's totalitarian terrorist regime. Afshar is the niece of deceased Iranian Major General Qasem Soleimani, Rubio wrote on X. She is also an outspoken supporter of the Iranian regime who celebrated attacks on Americans and referred to our country as the Great Satan. The Federal Bureau of Investigation has labeled a recent data breach, which reportedly targeted an FBI surveillance system, a major incident, and notified Congress about the cyber intrusion, the agency confirmed to The Hill on Friday. The FBI identified anomalous activity on an unclassified network and quickly leveraged all technical capabilities to remediate the incident, the agency said in a statement. It was determined the access was obtained through a third party and constitutes a major incident under the Federal Information Security Modernization Act. The FBI is following the required steps under FISMA, including notifying Congress, and remains focused on countering nation-state and cybercriminal activity, it continued. Several outlets reported that China-linked hackers are suspected of being behind the breach. According to Politico, the system contained information from pen register and trap and trace devices, which are used to monitor incoming and outgoing calls from a phone, as well as personally identifiable information related to suspects of FBI investigations. Cuban authorities began to free prisoners on Friday after announcing it would pardon 2,010 inmates, the second release in less than a month, as it faces heightened U.S. pressure. More than 20 inmates came out of La Lima Penitentiary in East Havana, holding their release papers, crying and hugging relatives who had been waiting for them all morning. AFP journalists said, "Thank you for this opportunity that they gave us," said Albus Gainza, 46, who had served half of a 6-year sentence for robbery. The Labor Department on Friday reported that employers added 178,000 jobs in March. That figure was well above the expectations of economists polled by LSEG, who predicted a gain of 60,000 jobs. The unemployment rate declined slightly to 4.3%, which was slightly lower than the 4.4% projected by LSEG economists. Revisions were made to the payroll numbers for the prior 2 months, with January's report revised up by 34,000 jobs from a gain of 126,000 to 160,000, while February's report was revised down by 41,000 jobs from a loss of 92,000 to 133,000. Private payrolls grew by 186,000 jobs in March, when economists predicted a gain of 70,000 jobs. February's loss of 86,000 private sector jobs was also revised down to a loss of 129,000. Government payrolls contracted by 8,000 jobs in March. Job losses by the federal government and state governments were partially offset by local governments adding jobs. The Artemis II astronauts are set to fly around the far side of the moon today, becoming the first humans to travel beyond Earth orbit in more than 50 years. The 4 crew members will break the Apollo 13 distance record at around 1:56 p.m. Eastern Time, reaching 252,757 miles from Earth, roughly 4,100 miles farther than any human has traveled. At closest approach, they'll pass within 4,066 miles of the lunar surface and photograph parts of the far side never seen by human eyes. A solar eclipse viewed from the capsule will cap the flyby. Commander Reed Weissman called the mission a magnificent accomplishment. Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen said the view leaves the photos in the dust. It is another level of amazing up here. That's the Raw Naked Truth for April 6th, 2026. You can catch every episode of the Raw Naked Truth Daily News Brief, as well as our sister podcast, Carnivore Radio, with news analysis and commentary, and the rest of the Xvadio podcast network at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcast app, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech. We'll see you next time.